The sun was dying behind the jagged mountains, painting the sky in red and orange. Lyra walked slowly through the empty streets of her village, her head low and heart heavy. The villagers avoided her eyes and whispered as she passed, calling her names she had heard all her life. Outcast, they said, traitor, and shame. She had always known she was different, but she had never expected this much hatred. Her family had turned against her too, after she refused to marry a man chosen by the council. He was cruel and proud, and Lyra could not imagine spending her life under his rule. So she had said no, boldly and without fear, and for that, they cast her out, leaving her alone in a world that seemed cold and empty. Night was falling, and the wind began to howl through the narrow streets. Lyra pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, wishing she had someone to protect her. She had nothing, no home, no family, no friends, only the stars above to guide her. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound made her jump. She remembered the stories of creatures that roamed the wastelands beyond the village, creatures that hunted travelers and left no trace behind. But there was no choice. She had to keep moving. She had to survive. As she reached the edge of the village, she heard footsteps behind her, slow and deliberate. Her heart raced, and she spun around. But the street was empty. A shiver ran down her spine, and she whispered to herself, "Am I imagining things, or is someone there?" The wind answered her, carrying only silence. She shook her head and continued walking, faster this time. The shadows seemed to stretch, following her every step. Suddenly, a stone rolled across the ground in front of her, and she froze. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and strong, wearing armor that shone even in the dim light. Lyra stepped back, unsure if this person was friend or foe. The stranger did not speak, only extended a hand. "Come with me, quickly," he said, his voice deep and calm. "It will find you soon." Fear and hope clashed in her mind, but she did not hesitate. Something about him seemed different from the others, different from the cruel villagers. She took his hand, and he lifted her into his arms effortlessly. As if she weighed nothing, her heart pounded in her chest, not just from fear, but from the sudden rush of being saved. As they ran through the empty streets, the shadows seemed to twist and move faster. Lyra dared not ask questions. She only held on tight, trusting this mysterious stranger with her life. They reached the edge of the village, where the fields stretched into darkness. The wind whispered secrets she could not understand. The stranger did not slow down, moving like he knew exactly where to go. Lyra realized she was leaving everything behind: her home, her past, her pain. But she also realized, for the first time, that maybe she was not truly alone. Somewhere out there, someone cared enough to save her. And as the village disappeared behind them, swallowed by the night, Lyra felt a flicker of hope, a small spark that maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change. But the darkness around them was deep, and Lyra knew the danger was far from over. The night was alive with unseen eyes, and the sound of footsteps followed them in the distance. She had escaped the village, but now she was on the edge of something far greater, something that could change not just her life, but the fate of the world itself. The night was darker now, and the wind howled like angry spirits through the empty fields. Lyra clutched the stranger's arm as he carried her, her heart pounding in fear and curiosity. She finally found her voice, trembling as she asked, Who are you?" The stranger did not answer immediately, only glanced back at the shadows chasing them. "They are close," he said, his voice calm but urgent. "We must move faster." The shadows seemed to grow taller, twisting shapes, moving. Between the trees, Lyra's stomach dropped as she realized they were being followed. Her mind raced, thinking of the village that had cast her out. She had thought she was alone in the world, but now someone risked everything to save her. Somehow, it both terrified and comforted her. Suddenly, the stranger leaped over a fallen tree, landing silently. Lyra could hardly keep up, but he adjusted his hold, carrying her without slowing. "I don't know where you are taking me," she said, "but thank you." He finally looked at her, his eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. "No time to explain," he said. "Just trust me." They ran for what felt like hours, the shadows never giving up. Every now and then, Lyra glimpsed creatures, moving through the dark, twisted forms, faster than any human should move. Her heart raced, and she clung to the stranger, feeling the strength of his arms and the confidence in his steps. At one point, a creature lunged from the darkness, its claws sharp and deadly. The stranger swung his arm, striking it with a force that sent it crashing into the trees. Lyra gasped, her fear mixed with awe. Who was this human? How could he be so strong, so fast? Finally, they reached the edge of a cliff, where the ground dropped into a dark canyon. The stranger set Lyra down gently, keeping his eyes on the shadows behind them. They will not give up, he said. They want you back, and they will try to kill anyone who helps you. Lyra looked at him, confusion and fear mixing in her mind. Why are you helping me? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. He did not answer immediately, only motioned for her to follow as he found a hidden path along the cliffside. It's not safe here, he said finally. We have to move. Before they catch up, the path was narrow and treacherous, but the stranger moved like he had walked it 1,000 times. Lyra had to trust him completely, stepping carefully to avoid slipping into the darkness below. As they climbed, she noticed strange symbols etched into the rocks, glowing faintly in the night. What are these? She asked, curiosity breaking through her fear. They are old protections, he said, ancient signs that keep us safe from them. Sometimes, the shadows behind them hissed, as if angered by the symbols. Lyra shivered, realizing the world was far bigger and stranger than she had ever imagined. They stopped briefly at a small plateau, hidden by rocks and trees. The stranger set her down and finally allowed himself to breathe. You are safe for now, he said, scanning the darkness, but not for long. Lyra's mind swirled with questions. Who were these creatures? Why did the villagers hate her so much? And most of all, who was this human who risked everything to save her? She looked at him, seeing not just a warrior, but a mystery, a protector, and maybe the only person she could trust. The wind carried distant sounds of movement, a reminder that the danger was not gone. Lyra knew she had escaped death tonight, but the night was still alive with secrets, and she had no idea what lay ahead, only that her life had changed forever. The stars sparkled above, but they offered little comfort as Lyra and the stranger moved through the wild. Every step seemed uncertain, every sound a potential threat. She tried to keep her fear in check, but the world outside the village was unlike anything she had ever known. Strange plants twisted toward the sky, their leaves glowing faintly, and the wind carried whispers she could not understand. His stranger's grip on her arm remained firm, guiding her safely along the uneven ground. Where are we going? She asked quietly, her voice trembling. He did not answer at once, only he kept his eyes scanning the darkness. Finally, he said, somewhere they cannot reach us easily. Somewhere you can learn to fight for yourself. Lyra frowned, unsure if she was ready, but she nodded, trusting him more than anyone in her life. As they moved deeper into the wilderness, the danger grew. Shadowy figures followed at a distance, and strange creatures slithered silently through the undergrowth. Once, a creature with glowing red eyes lunged at them from the bushes. The stranger swung his arm in a blur of motion, sending it crashing into a tree. Lyra gasped, her heart racing. How? How can you move like that? She asked, awe and fear mixing in her voice. He only said, humans can be stronger than anyone thinks, and continued moving without pause. During the long journey, Lyra began to notice small things about him, his careful steps, the way he listened to every sound, and the way his eyes seemed to see what others could not. For the first time in her life, she felt safe. Even as the shadows pressed closer, they crossed rivers with swift currents and climbed hills that seemed impossible to scale. Each time, the stranger found a way to keep them safe, guiding her through dangers she could not even imagine. At night, they camped in hidden caves, far from prying eyes. Lyra huddled close to him, feeling the warmth of his presence and the strength he radiated. I've never met anyone like you, she said softly, almost to herself. He looked at her, his face calm but serious. You are stronger than you know, he said, and soon, you will need all your strength. As the days passed, they began to talk, slowly sharing stories of their pasts. Lyra told him about her village, the forced marriage, and the cruelty of her people. He listened without judgment, only nodding. Then he spoke of his own past, of a world beyond her imagination, a world where humans were warriors, explorers, and fighters, and where courage and skill could change the fate of many. Lyra's eyes widened, realizing that she had been born into a small, limited world. Now she was part of something much bigger, something dangerous but full of possibility. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they reached the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast, dark valley. The shadows had not followed them here, but Lyra knew the danger, was still out there, waiting. The stranger turned to her, his expression serious. "We must rest, but only for a short time," he said. "They are relentless, and they will not stop until they have you." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She realized that her life had changed forever, and that survival would require more courage than she had ever known. And as they settled for the night, hidden among rocks and strange glowing plants, Lyra could hear the distant cries of unknown creatures, and the whisper of the wind seemed to carry secrets of battles yet to come. She closed her eyes, feeling both fear and excitement, for she knew one thing, clearly her journey had only just begun, and the world beyond the village was full of danger, mystery, and the chance to become someone greater than she had ever imagined. The first light of dawn spilled over the cliffs, painting the valley below in soft gold. Lyra stretched, still feeling the tension of the previous night in her muscles. The stranger sat nearby, sharpening his weapon with careful, practiced movements. For the first time since leaving the village, Lyra felt a sense of quiet, but she knew it would not last. They had traveled far, through dangerous lands, but something in the air told her the biggest dangers were still ahead. The stranger finally spoke, his voice calm but serious. "You were not rejected by chance," he said, looking at her with piercing eyes. "Your people feared something in you, something they did not understand." Lyra frowned, confusion mixing with fear. "What do you mean?" "I am just me," she said, her voice trembling. He shook his head slowly. "No, Lyra, you are not just anyone," he said. "You carry a power that has not been seen in generations, a strength that can change the fate of the world." Her heart skipped a beat, and she took a step back, unsure if she should be afraid or proud. I have power," she whispered, almost afraid to believe it. "Yes," he said, "and they want to destroy it, to control it, or to bury it forever, because they cannot understand it." Lyra looked down at her hands, trembling. She had always felt different, but now she realized the truth. Her difference was not weakness, but strength. Before she could ask more questions, a sound broke the morning silence. Footsteps, careful and fast, approached from the forest below. The stranger's eyes narrowed, and he motioned for Lyra to hide. "They have found us," he said. "Elite hunters from your village, and more than your village. They will not stop until they have you." Lyra's pulse raced, fear rising. Like fire in her chest, she realized that the journey had been only the beginning, and the real test was about to start. As the hunters emerged, Lyra saw the weapons they carried, sharp, strange, and deadly. The stranger stood in front of her, blocking the path with confidence. "You must trust me," he said, "and remember what I told you. Your power is real, and it can protect us." The hunters advanced, moving like shadows themselves. Lyra felt a strange energy stirring inside her, a warmth that spread through her body. She looked at the stranger, and he nodded, silently telling her to embrace it. The first hunter lunged, but Lyra's instincts guided her. A wave of energy pulsed from her hands, knocking him back with a force she did not fully understand. Her eyes widened, and the stranger's expression turned to one of approval and pride. "Good," he said. "You are learning fast." The hunters hesitated, surprised by her sudden power. Lyra felt a rush of confidence, a realization that she was no longer the outcast, the weak girl left for dead. But the battle was far from over. More hunters appeared, surrounding them, and the forest seemed alive with movement. The stranger's eyes glowed faintly as he prepared for combat. "We fight together," he said, "and then we plan our next move toward freedom, toward your destiny." Lyra took a deep breath, feeling fear and courage mixing in her chest. She was no longer alone, and for the first time, she felt ready to face the world. As they fought, Lyra realized the truth of the stranger's words. She was not powerless, she was extraordinary, and the revelation of her strength would change everything, not just for her, but for the people who had rejected her. The battle raged around them, the hunters relentless, but Lyra and the warrior moved as one. Every step, every strike, every surge of power brought them closer to survival. And as the sun climbed higher in the sky, Lyra knew the final test was still ahead, a test that would define her future and the fate of the world she had only just begun to discover. The air was thick with tension as Lyra and the stranger faced the hunters. The forest around them seemed alive, shadows twisting and moving with every sound. Lyra felt her heart racing, but she no longer felt fear, only determination. She had discovered her power, and now it was time to use it fully. The first hunter charged, weapon raised, but Lyra unleashed a surge of energy from her hands. The hunter flew backward, crashing into a tree with a loud thud. Her eyes widened, realizing how strong she had become. The stranger moved beside her, striking with speed and precision, each motion calculated and deadly. Together, they were unstoppable, a force neither the hunters nor the forest could challenge. More hunters came, faster and stronger. But Lyra no longer doubted herself. She moved with the rhythm of the battle, every strike and wave of energy precise. The stranger fought beside her, his strength and skill complementing her power perfectly. Lyra realized something amazing. She was no longer the outcast, the weak girl who had been abandoned. She was a warrior, a force of nature, and with him, she could face anything. The hunters tried to flank them, surrounding them from every side, but Lyra raised her hands, focusing all her energy, and a glowing shield formed around them. The hunters struck, but the shield held, shimmering and strong. Her confidence grew with every passing moment. She felt the courage of every outcast, every rejected soul, flowing through her. She realized that her power was not just strength, but hope, and with hope, she could inspire, protect, and win. The stranger glanced at her, a rare smile on his face. "You've learned well," he said. "Now finish this." Lyra nodded, raising her hands high. A beam of energy shot from her, striking the hunters in a blinding flash. They screamed and fell, their weapons scattering across the ground. The battle was almost over, and for the first time, Lyra felt a deep sense of victory. The last hunter, the strongest of them all, stepped forward, refusing to give up. But Lyra did not hesitate. She focused, calling all her energy into one final strike. The hunter was thrown back with a force so strong he disappeared into the shadows beyond the forest. Silence fell, broken only by the whisper of the wind through the trees. Lyra looked around, breathing heavily, her heart still racing. The stranger placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "You did it," he said. "You survived. And you were stronger than anyone could have imagined." Tears filled Lyra's eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. She had been rejected, abandoned, and left for dead, but now she had triumphed, not just over the hunters, but over fear, doubt, and every obstacle that had tried to stop her. The forest grew quiet, and for the first time, Lyra felt peace. She looked at the stranger, who had carried her, protected her, and taught her to fight. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. He nodded. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Your journey is just starting, and the world is waiting for you." Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the power within her, the courage that had grown with every step of her journey. She was no longer the outcast, the girl who had been forsaken by society. She was a human warrior, strong, fearless, and ready to face whatever challenges came next. And as the sun rose high above the forest, casting light over the land, Lyra and the stranger looked ahead, toward the unknown, toward adventure, toward a future they would shape together. The outcast had become a hero, and the world would never forget her name.